Welcome to Life's Rich Tapestry, a podcast exploring the narrative of people's layered lives. Listen in on courageous conversations spoken from the heart. Gain insight into another's life as we tackle compelling topics which will expand your mind, help you gain perspective, and might even inspire you to do things differently. My name is Evelyn, and I look forward to your company. And welcome to another episode of Life's Rich Tapestry. The pandemic, lockdowns, and government regulations have created havoc in many people's lives, but none so more than couples who planned their wedding during this time. Now, some couples were forced to change dates, venues, suppliers, and the truth, some even changed their partners or just decided to not get married. But love was not canceled, and my next guest had to change her wedding date 4 times until she was able to marry the love of her life in March of this year. I'm very honored to have Kiara on Life's Rich Tapestry to share her story. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be on.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, well, let's just start at the beginning. Tell me a little bit about your now husband.
My now husband, Craig, we have been together for just over 10 years now. So we got together quite young, and we actually got set up by his mother. Oh my God. So a bit of an odd story, but we were working together, and she saw me sort of go past her in the reception area every now and then, and just thought, that girl is who I want my son to be with. He had just finished a pretty horrible relationship and was feeling, I guess, a bit down in the dumps, and his mother was really picking up on that. So it's a perfect setup story, and neither of us wanted to go to the date. It was a completely blind date, and she just would not leave him alone, saying, message her, call her, set a date up, and yeah, the rest is history, but we did fall in love.
That is amazing. Now, how old were you at that stage?
We were 19.
19.
Babies.
Babies. Wow. So being together for that long, was it just a no-brainer that you would eventually get married, or when did you decide?
Yeah, in the beginning, you go through your typical dating quirks and you go through that honeymoon period. And we actually have quite an amazing life, I think, together, where we've created so many adventures and stories to tell, and we travel quite a bit, and we're always focusing and looking forward to the next thing. We've certainly had our ups and downs, like any couple in the world. Craig was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes about 5 years, or even less, I think 3 years into our relationship at 22. And that was a huge setback for both of us. He had to learn to live with this new disease, and it comes with a whole heap of burden for him. And I've got to learn to live with a lot of what he's, his emotion and all of that. I'm sure if anybody knows about type 1 diabetes, all the other things that come with it. So we went through ups and downs, but I think, to answer your question, when we knew we'd fall in love and get married, and I'd say around that time, maybe just after that time, I kept on asking him, when are you going to ask me to marry you? And he said, you've got to pass the 5-year test first. Okay. So 5 years came and went, and I said, hang on, we've been together for 5 years now. Are you going to ask me to marry you? And he says, no, you got to, that's just the first block. We got to go through the second block. So I fully expected we'd be together for life. But I sort of expected him to propose maybe after 10 years, but he did propose after 7 years in September 2019, just before pandemic.
Oh, and were you expecting it though?
I was completely shocked. I'm usually pretty cluey on things, and it was actually a really cute story. My girlfriend said that her boss had just purchased a holiday home and would like to thank her for all of her amazing work she's done, and said, here's a night away for a weekend. And she said, let's go. I said, fantastic. I had no clue. In the morning, I said to Craig, I've got to leave now. We're heading out to Sydney, and I'm going to miss you. I wish you were coming. You've got no idea how much I love you. And he just grabbed my face and said, no, you've got no idea. And then we headed off to the city and we went to this massive house, and my best friend said, I'm just going to make a call to my partner to let him know we've arrived safely. Just let yourself in. And I'm trying to figure out how, these Airbnbs these days, they've got all the PIN codes and everything. I'm thinking, how do I let myself in? The door starts opening and my first thought is, oh no, we've got the wrong house, or the cleaner's still in there. I didn't really think of what was happening, and the door opens and my now husband is standing there. But it took so long for me to figure out that was him, because it was such a shock that he was here. And I said, what are you doing here?
Because you just said goodbye to him.
I just said goodbye to him. And he had rose petals up the stairs, and it was overlooking Darling Harbour, and
lovely.
Got down on one knee and asked me. I was in so much shock. Usually I am cluey on things. I had no idea.
Oh, wow. And so then you realized this was a setup, and your girlfriend set this all up.
And I was low-key upset that she was leaving. I was looking forward to spending the weekend with her.
Oh, that's lovely. So September 2019.
Yes.
So when did you start planning for your wedding?
Everything happened so easily for us. As you're aware, I'm sure there's so much that goes into wedding planning. It's not just, we've, picked a date, everyone rock up. But we did have a quick turnaround. We figured out our venue, which was definitely the first thing I recommend anyone look at first, because everything evolves around there. Your hair and makeup quotes sort of factor in how far they've got to travel, along with the flowers, and everything sort of rolls from there. So the first thing that we looked at was the venue, which we chose Parklands in Blackheath, which is an absolutely stunning venue, no matter the weather.
Yeah.
So we went from there, and everything rolled around really quickly. We had the dress by March 2020, and I said to my girlfriends, everything seems to be going so perfectly, something's bound to go wrong.
Oh, you said that?
I did.
Oh my goodness.
I set it up.
You did set it up. Oh my God. So you booked the venue to get married in November 2020.
That's correct. That was our first date.
That was your first date. So when the pandemic happened, how long were you into the pandemic and the lockdowns when you said, you know what, I think we need to cancel?
It was a very hard decision. I didn't want it to be true, of course, as I'm sure every single bridal couple can relate to. I'd even booked a honeymoon in February of 2020 thinking, yes, we're going to be fine to fly out. There's not going to be an issue.
Yep.
My mum was like, you've got to start getting into your head that you might have to postpone your wedding. And believe me, up until the day that we postponed, I still felt like we'd made the wrong decision and thought that maybe we wanted to go through. And at the time of the actual date of the wedding, we could have had it. There were reduced numbers at the time, but unfortunately there was no dancing.
Yeah.
Actually, sorry, I think I'm getting confused with my dates now. I feel like that might have been the 2021.
I think that was 2021.
Yeah. Okay, so for 2020, it was absolutely no weddings. And I still felt like, maybe we could still go ahead. But I'm definitely glad I made the decision. We had to have that decision made by September to be able to secure the next date and make sure that, everything ran smoothly for the event coordinator and all of our suppliers.
Okay. So was that, I know I'm getting confused with the dates as well. So when you canceled in September 2020, was that for November then 2021?
For November 2020, that was cancelling for.
Okay.
And so we thought, okay, our year's going to be perfect. We're going to, COVID's going to be over by then.
I think everyone thought that as well.
So we thought a year would be perfect.
Right. And so, so then the year goes by and there's still things happening all over the world. And then when did you decide to cancel the second time?
I think it was around October, so it was a little bit earlier. oh no, a little bit later, I should say, in 2021 again. I just thought maybe I'm making the wrong decision. Maybe things are going to change because, as we all know, it was literally week to week. You know, for those that were having their weddings in March 2020, they literally had to cancel for the next day. You know, we just didn't know if they were going to open things up the next day.
Right.
So it's such a hard decision because you can't put your vendors out. You can't put your guests out. We had guests coming internationally. We would have loved for family from Sweden to come over as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, you do in the back of your head think, oh, what if something happens? What if somebody gets ill? Or, you know, and you can't think that way. You try not to think that way.
Right.
But at the end of the day, everything goes through your mind.
Of course, it does go through your mind. Now, okay, so that's 2020. Now into 2021. So you're excited. You're going to get married November 2021. But then in Sydney, in New South Wales, I actually was in all of Australia. I can't even remember. We just had that lockdown I felt like it was from one day to the next, where it was like June, July, and August. Is that correct? Or
I think, last year I remember we went back into lockdown around July because we'd postponed some things just to get away, as I feel like everyone needed to get away at some point.
Yeah.
And we ended up having to cancel each time that we had a lockdown. So it was, around July, and that went all the way through to, I think, almost November 2021.
So when did you cancel then?
That was October.
So, that was the October.
That was
sorry.
the October one.
That was the October one. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I'm getting confused with the date. So when you changed in October, so you have to get rid of the November 2021. How was that process? That must have been really stressful for you now, because this now is your third time.
That was our second time. So the first time was November 2020, 2021. And then, the third date, yes. It's a really odd sensation because you, as a young girl, I'm sure every young girl can relate almost. And you think, oh, I'm going to meet this amazing human being. I'm going to, have my best friends next to me planning this wedding, and there's going to be, the first couple of months planning everything, and then the rest, you're nailing out the intricate details, and then you're going to get married. And by November 2021, I just felt deflated. It just felt like, what's the point? You don't have that excitement of, yes, absolutely, this date is locked in. It's going to happen on this date. So by the third time, which we booked, it was March 25th. 2022. Yeah. It felt like, is this going to happen again? Because you're coming into winter again. You think, okay, maybe, it's around Easter time as well. School holidays have been. All these thoughts come into your head. You go, okay, are we going to have another lockdown? And you do know that the government's saying we're going to try and get businesses up and running again. We can't sustain this any longer. People are getting their vaccinations. We are going back to a normality, but we still had that fear of, in December, there was lockdowns again. You couldn't go anywhere. So it was still, at that stage, you don't get excited and you just think, oh, it's just, hopefully it happens. But I feel like as well, when we first booked our date for November, it's springtime. You think, oh, let's create this beautiful spring Blue Mountains atmosphere. And although I must admit, March it really did come through for us. It was a beautiful day regardless. You still think, oh no. Yeah. You still want that spring vibe. This
exactly. So you were originally both November dates, and then you had to change to March, which is a totally different season. Yeah. So with the 25th, that didn't work out either?
No. So this is where we contacted, and I'm sure you as our celebrant. I came back to you a few times, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm teeing up everyone. And from our point of view, it was particularly particularly difficult because I know that you're going through the same thing. These are businesses. These people need to put food on their employees' tables at the end of the day. And I don't want to consume their time with my wedding because it is such a privilege to be able to spend so much money on this one day. It really is. We are so grateful that we're able to have this experience, really. Whereas some people don't have the money to be able to invite all their friends and families to this day. So, we've got to be grateful at the same time. But at the same time, I was very nervous that we'd be annoying all of our suppliers with the abundance of emails, and we actually physically could not book a weekend. The only weekend that we could possibly book was for October 2022. And I said to Craig, I don't want to be engaged for 3 years. That's just ridiculous. I want to move on with my life. I just want to have a husband. And although I know things don't change too much with having a fiance or a partner to a husband, but it's still, I just wanted to get married. And because of the delays, it just makes you feel so down. And I didn't want to feel like that anymore. I didn't want to feel like, oh, is October 22 going to be different? I've got to wait another 12 months after.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, we did book it in for the 25th of March. And then one of our vendors said, oh, look, we've actually made a mistake.
Oh, okay.
So that was a Friday. That was sort of like, okay, great, Friday. Everyone would enjoy the long weekend. So we had to book in the Thursday, which is our wedding date, March 24th.
Yeah.
And we were very concerned being a Thursday because, again, we don't want to be an imposition to our guests. And unfortunately, some guests couldn't turn up because they've got children. It's hard to find a babysitter. They're traveling and they've got to get their children to school the next day, or they're, traveling from interstate. So, it was hard.
But were you able to keep all the same suppliers?
We were so fortunate.
Very lucky.
One thing I think is definitely a benefit of this whole thing, we actually did change one of our suppliers. It's not that we weren't able to secure the date for them. It's just that their correspondence was horrible, to say the least. And we just found that I wasn't willing to put ourselves into a position where we'd be nervous coming up to the day thinking, are they going to even turn up? We've paid them this money. So even when I was trying to change the dates for them, they weren't responding to me. So I just emailed them and said, don't worry about it. Keep the deposit. We'll find somebody else. And you know what? The supplier that we had, I am so happy that we had them. They were so supportive and it just worked out well.
Yeah. It was a really difficult time. And, even looking at celebrant chats and how they were coping with, a lot of people asking for refunds, deposits back. And it was so difficult because I know a lot of celebrants and a lot of suppliers, some of them didn't even think of contracts because,
You'd never think this would happen in a million
years. You never
years.
think this would happen. No. So it was quite difficult for a lot of wedding suppliers.
It's a chunk out of your budget as well. Like for you, I can't imagine this is your weekend work. It's what you love and you have a passion for, and you've made a very, very good business out of it. And for all those little suppliers, those businesses that are trying to get up and running, it's a huge kick.
Yeah. So I'm amazed that you were able to keep all the suppliers except the one that you changed. That's pretty amazing to be able to change 4 times.
We were pretty we were extremely happy, I should say, with all of
lucky.
our suppliers, and we didn't want to lose anyone, so we made it work that
we'll
have them. What we didn't ask for any refunds. We wanted to ensure that we were supporting the local businesses as well. We didn't want to have to swap and change too much. Yeah.
I know on your day, we've had pretty bad weather in the mountains, to say the least.
Yeah.
Except today's absolutely gorgeous.
Stunning.
It is stunning. So we want to get out there. So we'll make sure get this podcast all recorded. And I know that on your day it was raining a lot.
It was.
And there was concern from quite a few people. They actually did come up to me and said, can you speak to her about not having it outside? And I remember I told a few, I said, you know what? It's actually not that bad because I've married couples in worse weather than this. And so they said, oh, well, I guess we can't talk to you about this. We'll have to find someone else. But the one thing about the mountains is with the fog and the mist, the pictures are amazing. And if suppliers are able to marry a couple out in the fog and the mist, they should just do it because I mean, the photos, being a celebrant for so many years, I know from all the weddings that I've done, the photos in the mist, the fog, even in the rain, they have been the best photos. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because you're more relaxed because you think, oh, well, my hair's going to get messed up. My dress is going to get dirty. I might as well just have fun with this, you know?
I think so. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
I just think, because I've seen your photos, and I will attach that with the podcast, and people will be able to see the photos. They were absolutely amazing. So you didn't have difficulty getting the same vendors. Was there any difficult, like you said, some guests weren't able to come? Were there a lot of guests that weren't able to come, or about how many?
So we obviously factored out people coming from overseas from the beginning.
Yeah.
There was about 10 that we lost due to differing circumstances, and we only lost a couple to COVID. So that was, we expected. I said to Craig, okay, here we go. We're the week before the wedding. Let's see how many we lose due to getting COVID, because it was a huge spike at the time.
There was. Yeah.
But we were very fortunate. We just lost a couple, and obviously we would have loved to have them there, but it was sort of like, you see all of these weddings, you get invited to all of these weddings, and people have, guests up to 120. And I said to Craig, I don't want a big wedding. I just want to have it intimate and small. And we ended up having about 56, 58.
Yep.
And I still found that to be too many.
Yeah. Well, it felt like a lot. I know when I got there to set up, I thought, wow, there's a lot of people in here. But I think because people were getting ready actually in that area as well. So, and it was raining, so everybody was inside, getting things ready. But we did have that break in the weather.
The sun came out just before I walked down the aisle.
I know, it
for
was
a second.
Perfect for a second. It was perfect though. And I do think, so if any bride is listening out there, couple, if it's raining or foggy, it's okay. It
actually makes the day, I think. And, I did have quite a few people and coming to the room where we were getting ready saying, look, and we could see outside. It was actually just foggy at the time. People were asking me, and we just saw a bit of mist. And yes, mist does make your hair nice and frizzy.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, Craig and I have this picture, and it came to life that day. It was sprinkling for a second, but at the end of the day, it really made this amazing feeling of wonderland. And you can see through the photos just how excited and happy we all are for being there.
Yeah. And so was your wedding day what you imagined? Or?
I don't think it can ever be what we imagined. We originally wanted to have it down by the lake, but obviously people would be slipping and sliding all down the hill, and we didn't want to put our guests out or make them feel uncomfortable going down that steep hill, especially in heels.
Yeah.
So I think when we did do that rehearsal the day before, we just went, this is perfect. I loved the setup. The fog and the mist made it amazing, and we're married, so that's all that matters at the end of the day. So yes, if there are any couples out there that go, oh, I'm really nervous about the weather, to be honest, I think sunny weather is kind of bland and boring now that I've experienced that. I think it's beautiful.
I think so too. And I know couples, they probably, when I meet with couples, and I'll say, oh, don't worry about the weather, but have a second venue option just in case it does rain. And they always say, oh, you're just lying, Evelyn. You're just lying to us. I'm like, no, really. The photos are truly magic. I mean, of course, if it's pouring down rain.
Oh, no, I wouldn't do that.
You couldn't do that, but the mist is there's something quite magical about it. So I know that this period of time has really tested couples. Did it test your relationship with Craig, or
No, I don't think so. We didn't just experience COVID and setbacks with COVID and floods. We actually also experienced the fires at 2019 as well. We were actually flying out to Japan, and we were looking at the New South Wales fire up. And as you know, a lot of people in Blackheath lost their homes, unfortunately. And I think it is an extremely stressful time, as everyone knows in the last 3 years. You just think, well, when is this going to end? I just want my life to go back to normal. I want to be able to plan time with my family. I want to be able to spend time with friends and go on holidays. And not only just work and, at the moment we're just working to live, not as,
yes, I totally
not
understand.
living, living to work, not working to live. But at the end of the day, I think what's got us through this is just knowing how grateful we are and just making ourselves quite grounded by the circumstances. We haven't lost family to COVID. We've been very fortunate in Australia. Our government has been good enough to be able to sort of close borders, and although we were all wishing it would be better and that we could just go out and play, but it's obviously worked. We haven't had the same impact as America and Europe, where everyone knows people they were trying to find where they can lay all these bodies.
Yeah.
You think about those sorts of circumstances and you think, okay, well, we're not too bad here. We haven't got married, but we can experience other things in the meantime. We can get excited about planning things. And, yes, those few times that we had to postpone were huge step backs for us, but it really made us stronger in the long run, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. And we're able to, travel around New South Wales because the borders were closed for such a long time. So we're able to experience our backyard. But the Blue Mountains has had it tough. I think you're right. For the last few years, bushfires, floods, rain, COVID, everything, so it has been a bit crazy. And then also the numbers as well being restricted with ceremonies. So like you were saying, the dancing was a huge thing for a lot of couples. And they said, no, we're not going to have a wedding until we can dance.
It almost sounds petty because you're there to get married, but at the same token, you want, again, you're a little girl, you think, oh, we're going to have the first dance and everyone's going to be surrounding us, all our loved ones and family and friends. And, you don't want to have it where everyone's sitting down with masks on looking at the couple dancing and that's it. We want everyone to get up and boogie with us, and that's what we were able to create.
Yeah,
and, I know that some people did push through without the dancing, and that's obviously completely their option to do so. But it does sound like such a small thing, but it is such a huge thing in a big day.
Exactly. And I have heard and I've read in newspaper articles where there have been weddings where they were super spreader events because people were dancing. So even though it was very strict during that time, they obviously they knew what was going to be a spreading event. And even funerals, it's been quite sad.
That's particularly hard.
That's particularly hard. But they have been super spreader events as well. So it has been difficult, and let's hope it's all behind us now.
It's been one step forward, two steps back for the last 3 years. So.
Yeah, that's right. Now, what was the most unexpected thing that happened on your wedding day?
Oh, to be honest, I can't really think about it. I have been thinking about this question. Everything pretty much did go to plan. I don't think there was anything that was too unexpected or too, overwhelming. Actually, no, now that I do think about it, the one thing that really got me by surprise was my nerves.
Oh.
I'm not a nervous person. As you know, I memorized my vows.
Yes.
I did a speech at the reception and I'm not nervous about that. Before I walked down the aisle, I could not contain my nerves. I was getting very agitated, and it's not that I wasn't excited to walk down the aisle. I don't even know where the nerves came from. It was just such an overwhelming experience that I've never had in my life. And I think that because I was so nervous, it took me back even more to thinking, why is this happening? And it made me even more nervous. So that's probably the biggest thing.
And probably because you're finally realizing, oh my God, I'm really getting married, or is someone going to take me away from the altar? Is this a dream? Maybe that was it. And what lessons have you learned from this whole experience?
I think just taking things day by day. The grass is always greener on the other side. You can always say, oh, people that got married 5 years ago had this perfect wedding, and you can be spiteful on them. But at the end of the day, you make your own happiness. You can't blame external factors. You need to just be able to move on and go, okay, it's beyond our control. What can we do differently? What can we do to make us happy in the moment now. We've still got each other. We've still got our love. We've still got our family and friends. Let's move on.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. There's that saying that sometimes you just can't change things. The only thing you can change is your attitude about it.
It is hard sometimes.
Yeah, it is, of course.
And, it's easier said than done.
Yeah, exactly. So now that you're married, how different is it?
Oh, I think it's different. I know people say, oh, it's not different, but I think it makes us more connected. Although my partner's I haven't really seen him very much. He's been working away, so he's living away at the moment. So I'm in this big new house by ourselves. So that's different as well.
Yeah. Because you've just bought a house.
We just thought, oh, why not do it all at once?
Oh, that's great. Now, was there any last things that you wanted to share before?
No, I think you've covered everything really. I think I'm excited for everyone to get married finally and to be able to live their lives out as happy as they can. And it's a very awesome opportunity to get married, and we'll live happily forever after, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Kiara.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for your company. Please tune in next week to Life's Rich Tapestry, where you will hear another courageous conversation spoken from the heart.